All right, so if you guys missed it, we got a bunch of information regarding the Switch 2, or at least, leaked stuff, right? But this was stuff that was coming from reliable sources. It happened last week. I'll try to remember to link the video down in the description below if you missed that. But basically, the word was from various reliable sources, Eurogamer, VGC, a bunch of different places, that Nintendo had shown off the next Switch, or the next console, whatever that is going to be. In this case, it was the, Nintendo Switch 2 is what people are calling it as of right now. I mean, obviously that's not what the name is going to be, but that's what people are calling it, at least as of right now. So apparently now we got a little bit more information coming from, again, some more reliable sources. I don't know if you guys have watched much of like Spawnwave's channel. He has a podcast that he does on Saturdays, and he has a bunch of different people on the podcast that, various people, whether, content creators or developers of, various different games, just people in the industry. Sometimes they're both, they're content creators and developers. Anyways, a bunch of different people. One specific person that he often has on the podcast who has their own podcast is Nate the Hate. Now, again, a lot of these people have a lot of insider information, right? They hear things, they're pretty ingrained in the industry. So these are reliable sources. So Nate the Hate on his podcast ended up coming out, and he gave a little bit of more information regarding this apparent demo that Nintendo was showing off behind closed doors at Gamescom. Now, if you didn't hear, one of the demos that apparently they were showing was a souped up Breath of the Wild demo. And we mentioned this already in the previous video. They were also showing apparently the Matrix Unreal Engine 5 demo, which again, I linked some gameplay of that in my other video. Again, I'll link that video down in the description below if I remember. But anyways, the point being, he gave a little bit more details regarding this Breath of the Wild demo running on this next console. Again, people are just calling it the Switch 2 because we don't know what to call it, right? Right now, it's kind of the same thing as before we had the Switch name. We heard that the code name was NX, so everybody's calling it NX. Right now, we don't have a code name. We don't have anything. So everybody's just calling it the Switch 2. It's just whatever, I guess, people kind of, latched onto as a name. We don't know that's going to be an actual, Switch Pro or something like that. It's probably not going to be that. Nintendo doesn't usually do that, but sometimes, right? You look at the DS, they made the 3DS. It was kind of the same console, but it was more obviously souped up version of what the Switch, what the DS was in the 3DS. So something like that is possible, where they come out with a new console that is very similar to the Switch, but it has it's still completely overhauled in a way. So that could happen. Anyways, point being, this is what he had to say. So, according to Nate the Hate on his podcast, he mentioned that this Breath of the Wild demo had a bunch of different interesting things, right? Apparently, the main focus that Nintendo was focusing on was minimal load time. So, it's basically just kind of like a transitional fade, right? From like one scene to the next, instead of, typically, let's say you fast travel, right? You got that kind of menu that pops up on screen, gives you hints. You got, shows you like how many shrines you've completed, how many, vessels you have. I guess it depends if you're playing Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. But basically the vessels, that you would, or what are they called? The goddess orbs, whatever you exchange for, the stamina and the heart containers, all that. Usually have that in the loading screen. Well, apparently there's none of that in this demo. It was just literally kind of like a fade transition, right? It was minimal loading times, which was just very smooth transition from menu to game. So that was their main focus. But interestingly enough, there's a couple other things. DLSS, if you don't know, that's kind of like NVIDIA's sort of AI technology that kind of makes games perform and look a little bit better than they do typically. And it actually works very, very well in most cases. A lot of games end up looking and running a lot better with this enabled. So it's interesting that they had that showing off. But the other thing that I think a lot of people are going to be excited for is 4K resolution and 60 FPS. And I say that because, like, obviously 4K is becoming the new norm. A lot of people, have been a little bit, disappointed that it feels like Nintendo is always a little bit like a half step behind everything, almost, maybe not a full step, but that's never been their focus, is power, right? Their focus is like create a console that's just really, 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 really fun, very innovative, and create games that are fun on it. But at the same time, it does limit themselves, especially with third-party developers, things like that, when, they don't have as much power behind it as well. So 4K 60 FPS, very interesting. Obviously, this is not like technically the same level as PS5 and Xbox Series X, because those can go up to 120 FPS. That said, maybe this console can do more. Again, Nate was just pointing out that Breath of the Wild's demo was 4K 60. With minimal load times and DLSS. So again, very, very, very interesting stuff. Now, again, does not mean that Nintendo is going to be remaking Breath of the Wild. Do keep that in mind, right? Because, again, this is just a demo, right? The reason why they're showing this sort of thing off to everybody is, developers, because this is one of the biggest games on the Switch that almost every developer is going to be familiar with, right? So that's why Breath of the Wild is sort of the game that they're using as an example of what this new console is capable of. So again, it doesn't mean the general consumer is going to be getting access to a souped up version of Breath of the Wild. Then again, it is possible, because we heard rumors years ago, and this was rumors for potential Switch Pro, but maybe this is for the next Nintendo console. If it is backwards compatible, apparently rumors before was Nintendo was asking third-party developers to get some of their third-party games that were already on Switch 4K ready, like almost like 4K updates and things like that. Again, it was a rumor, but if it is true, then maybe we will see an update to some of the games that we've been playing on the Switch on this new console, where it's going to be backwards compatible and it's going to have like these upgrades, right? Kind of like how on PS5, some of the PS4 games got a little bit of a bump up, a little bit of an upgrade and different things like that. So maybe Nintendo's going down that route. I don't know. I'll be very interested to see though what they do with this console. I personally don't want it to just be like an upgraded Switch. I would like to see some new features, something exciting. What I love about Nintendo is that they innovate, but the 4K 60 is definitely a huge selling point. The other thing real quick is, like, obviously a lot of the word is 2024. Now apparently there's rumor about like a reveal maybe early 2024, maybe even as early as late 2023. Now if Nintendo does something like they did with the Switch, then that would be like maybe like an October, November reveal, but it could be a little bit later too. If it is fairly similar to the current Switch, and there's not a lot of massive upgrades, then Nintendo doesn't have to explain as much about this new console. So it is possible that we get a little bit of a later reveal, but I personally would love to see them release the console earlier in the year. When they release it close to Christmas, I mean, it's just not a good time, because everybody's just swarming to get it, right? Because obviously people want to get it for Christmas. But if it comes out a little bit early in the year, right, then it's like there's not as many people trying to rush to buy it for Christmas, for example, because it's not Christmas. So that means more of the hardcore initial fan base is typically usually able to get hands-on a little bit more easily. And then Christmas time comes, anyone who's trying to buy one for Christmas presents and all that, they can do that. So I liked how Nintendo did it with the Switch release, having it released in March. So hopefully that's the same case this time. I don't know, your guess is as good as mine, but let me know what you think in the comments below about all this information. Again, we keep getting more and more information, and I'll keep letting you guys know as it comes out until we get an official release reveal. And obviously we're gonna have reactions, we're gonna be covering it completely, the news behind it all whenever it comes out. Lord willing, all goes as planned. Gameplay, I mean, you name it. It's going to be a lot of fun. So keep it locked. If you're new around here, we do a variety of Nintendo-based content here on this channel. So be sure to subscribe for more of that. We also do non-Nintendo on a different gaming channel, youtube.com/JSkeleton. And we do a lot of mixed streams over on kick.com/JSkeleton, from live music performances to just hanging out, chatting, playing a variety of different games and different things like that. So that's kind of like where all the content I do across the interweb kind of comes together in one place, between music and games and all that good stuff. So anyways, thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay well. See you guys soon in another one. Till then, friends, game on. Catch you guys later.